Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very long video for you in which we will be painting together if you would like, so do bring out your paints, your sketchbooks and whatever else you may have on hand, because today we're going to be making some art. And in this video I will be finishing my Baku sketchbook, which I talked about in a previous video. I did make this sketchbook, so as you can see I have already used the sketchbook and I'll be doing a sketchbook tour that I'll be releasing next week. But as you can see, there's a lot of empty pages, and I'm just showing you here that the sketchbook is actually falling apart a bit because I used glue to glue it on, but I talk about that more in my next video. And you can see there's a lot of empty pages, so I'm actually just going to be filling the sketchbook up with, paintings of the place that I never got around to painting. I'm just checking here which spread is the best for the painting that I'm about to do, and now I'm just clipping on some, what are they called, binder clips, I think. And this is the little pouch that I took when I went to Baku. It has all my painting supplies in it, it fits everything really nicely. And I'm just adding binder clips here so that the pages stay down, so that when I paint and draw it doesn't really bother me. Today I'm going to be painting a few paintings for you, which I will be showing you as I progress. The first painting is actually this flame towers, which are quite famous in Baku because they look like flames, and I'm using this Unipin 0.1 grey pen because I really like this pen. I'm not sure if I talked about it in a previous video, but what I like about it is that it doesn't really show up as much as a black pen, and these are just some receipts and things that I wanted to stick into my sketchbook. You know, it's just nice to kind of have this kind of scrapbook vibe. But yeah, the pen, I like it because it doesn't stand out too much. Black I feel is a bit harsh, so yeah, and now I'm just setting up my paints here. I just tend to clear out the general area before I work so that it looks nice in frame, so that's what I'm doing right now. And yeah, I'm gonna be setting the phone beside my tripod. Yeah, there we go. Just so it's a nice clear frame and composition. But yeah, now we're gonna get started with the drawing, and this is always the hardest part, the setting down of the lines, the figuring out where the composition will be. Normally it is good to do like compositional sketches, but because this was a sketchbook that I was really trying to finish, this was the week after I came back, so I was trying to finish it within that week so I could also get this video out as well. So I didn't really, spend too much time planning, and it's also like a tiny travel sketchbook. I mean, it's not something that has to be super perfect or anything, so yeah, I was just trying my best to finish the sketchbook, because honestly I feel like once you lose that momentum of not being in that headspace of, let's say I have the sketchbook and I didn't finish it. If I don't finish it within like the week, then I'm never going to finish it, and it's just going to be yet another sketchbook that lies on my shelf, and it's just, gathering dust, and yeah, it just won't feel as nice if I fill it with sketches that aren't of the place that it was made for, right? But yeah, these are the lines. I mean, I'm kind of struggling with what to say right now, but I think I will just, I'm gonna do some voiceover and then I'll leave it with some music as well. But this is an extremely long video, so I don't think I'll be able to talk for 2 hours. I think I will just leave you to enjoy the rest of the sketch, and then we will we will come back when it's time for painting. Okay, we are nearing the end of the sketching process, and I actually do a live talking portion in this section, like after I start drawing. So I'm just gonna leave you to listen to previous Noor, who is gonna explain a bit about the painting process, and then we'll talk a bit more about the paints afterwards. Okay, let's get into the painting. I have some water here. I have my palette that I took when I traveled. It's really gunky, to be honest. It's not very nice, but I do have the original gouache paints here if I need a refill. But I am gonna, first of all, I'm gonna I'm gonna wipe off the excess paint. So this is a palette that I actually got from Amazon. It was just a small tin. You can see, I mean, you can see the size of it. I quite like it because it's quite portable. It's about the size of my phone, though my phone is a bit larger than most phones. And it fits really nicely in an A5 size pouch. And as you can see, it has these two flaps, which are really useful for mixing paints, especially when you're on location. The one thing that I guess I would improve about it is that it doesn't come with like water pots, and mostly palettes don't come with water pots, but I've actually seen one on Amazon. It's like a fold out thing, similar to this, but it has two like pots on either side of it to be filling with water, which would have been really useful as well. So I might buy that next time, but otherwise this is actually a really nice palette, and as you can see I used it for all the sketches actually. I could have used just a normal paint palette, but I thought I would stick to just the constraints of using the travel palette that I took, and to be honest also I was feeling quite lazy. The thing is, I have like watercolor palettes which come in like the nice pans and things, but I wanted to take gouache paints because I really like the vibrancy of gouache. I like the layering of it. You can get really saturated colors, but the thing is once you squeeze out the paints into the palette, as you can see, they get very dry, and so you never get to the actual saturation that you get when you squeeze it straight out of the tube. And obviously the thickness as well is very different. I almost always use the gouache paints as watercolor paints simply because you know you just can't get to the thickness of gouache, because I'm reactivating it with water and it is very dry. But yeah, still I quite liked it, and I'm glad that I actually took my own palette. Most of the colors that I used were, as you can probably tell, yellows, greens and blues, a bit of reds here and there because the skies were very purple. But other than that, yeah, I didn't really, I think that most of the colors I used pretty much. White was a color that I didn't use that much, mainly because it was kind of hard to reactivate it with water, but also, as I said before, I am using these paints as watercolor paints, so there wasn't really the need to use white. The types of paints that I'm using, they are just Winsor & Newton gouache paints, which are actually kind of hard to find in Dubai. I think I've only seen them in one shop here, and even then that was actually a surprise, like when I was, you know, art supply, not even hunting, I always just walk into shops and look at the art supplies, and I chanced upon it like right in the bottom shelf, and I was very surprised because I actually got these paints delivered from the UK. So, you know, just goes to show that it's kind of difficult to find gouache paints here. There are various different brands, like some Chinese brands and things, but I'm never really sure if I should actually try them or not. So yeah, I just stick to the Winsor & Newton ones because I think they are, they're decent, they're pretty good, and yeah. My process varied across various paintings. I think what I did with this one is more of a standard process where I drew it and then I painted on top of it, but some of the paintings, as you will see in next week's sketchbook tour, I actually started off with the paint, and then I did pen on top of it. So yeah, I think both of the processes are actually pretty interesting. But yeah, I really don't know what to say. Like, I'm really sorry. I feel like I should be an intellectually stimulating art partner right now, but I'm really struggling to come up with words. It's actually been a very long time since I've done some sort of like podcasting or a long form video where I just talk about absolutely nothing. It's fascinating to me, actually. I did a podcast. When did I wrap it up? I think the end of 21. So it started and ended in 2021, and that's a couple of years now. And it's insane to think how much has changed since then, because well, first of all, I do not have the time anymore to even consider something like a podcast. As fun as it was, though, because it's really fun actually talking to people. And I did try and start a podcast on this YouTube channel where I interviewed a friend for one episode. That was really fun. And when I listened back to that episode, I mean, I don't normally rewatch my old videos, which I probably should, just to get an idea of like how I've improved and also, you know, how I can improve my future videos. But you know, listening back to that episode was really fascinating, actually. I think I was listening back to it because I was making some shorts. Yeah, I was testing out this AI software that generates shorts from your long form videos, and yeah, so I got to listen to some parts of that video, and it was actually really interesting, and it was nice as well to be able to reflect back on that conversation. I actually really like the fact that I made this watercolor sketchbook, mainly because well, first of all, watercolor sketchbooks are really expensive, and I actually have one. I have a moleskin one that my friend gifted to me, but I was very disappointed by the paper because it doesn't take water very well, ironically. And so that sketchbook, which I had intended to take with me on holiday, I couldn't take because it doesn't take water medium very well. And so I had to figure out another way, which was to make this sketchbook, which I'm actually very happy about because I love the size. I think the size is very cute. And I also like that I can customize it, right? Like I customize the pages. So some of the pages are this cutty paper, which is like recycled watercolor paper, and some of the pages are like standard cold pressed watercolor paper, yes. So I kind of was able to mix up the pages. And also the size, I love the cute little A6 size, and the number of pages, I think there's about maybe 30 sides altogether, maybe 7 sheets, so that's like 14. Yeah, I have no idea, maths is not my strong forte, but anyways, I was able to control the page size, so there's not going to be like, you know, too many excess pages or anything like that, which is obviously very handy. The only thing that I do not like about the sketchbook is that I glued it because I'm not a very good sewer, let's just say that, and also you need like really thick needles and things like that, so I wasn't able to sew it basically, but I will. That is my next goal, is to try and learn how to sew my own sketchbooks, because honestly, making my own watercolor sketchbooks really feels like a lot more of a sustainable and feasible way than buying a ton of watercolor sketchbooks, because again, I live in Dubai and it's really difficult to get art supplies here, you know, at least like standard art supplies, and I really don't trust like branded brands, so it's, you know, you kind of just have to make do with what you have. So yeah, I think even this cutty paper that I'm painting on right now, I think again I got it from the UK. So yeah, you just have to kind of find solutions to things. Alright, I am nearing the end of this painting actually. I realized I didn't really tell you much about the painting. It is a painting that I snapped a shot of it. It was a rainy day and the seats were actually wet and it was also very cold, and so it wasn't really possible or feasible for me to actually paint it there and then, but I saw that, you know, this view that you see me painting right now, and I was like, I knew I needed to paint that, so that's basically how it went. And to be honest, you know, it was the same with all of them. They're just views that I was not able to paint because of circumstances, they weren't very favourable. So yeah, that's basically why I ended up painting this. And it's kind of interesting because you can put in a lot more detail, obviously, when you are at home as opposed to, you know, when you're on location. I like both sketches, I like both types of sketches, and when I do my sketchbook tour next week, you will be able to see the comparison between the two. But I do think that there's limitations, and there's also good points about both of them, about painting at home and painting on location. I definitely do, I think, prefer painting on location, mainly because I think I'm in that zone, and so it's a lot easier for me to just get into painting. And also there's a time limit, and I love time limits. I love that I can finish a sketch in like 10 or 15 minutes and I'm done with it. I don't have to think about it. Whereas when I'm painting at home, there's this whole idea of like, I have all this time, and so I should make it look really good. And I think my perfectionism kicks in then, and therefore I just get really lazy to paint. So that's the problem, really. And yeah, also painting from photos is never as nice as painting from location. Okay, there's not much more left of this painting, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna introduce each new painting and maybe just talk briefly about it, and then the rest of the video will be just some music, because honestly, I'm already tired of talking actually. But yeah, I will see you in a bit when we get on to the next painting. Okay, it's me, I'm back. I decided that maybe it's better to also have just a tiny introduction to each of the paintings. So this one is right next to the Flame Tower painting, as you can see, and I stuck in a receipt, and I am deciding that I'm going to be using this Himi gouache paints that I've been seeing a lot on Instagram, and to be honest, I have no idea if these are the real deal. There was a lot of Himi gouache paints on Instagram from various different sellers. Not Instagram, sorry, on Amazon, from various different sellers, so I have no idea if this is the real thing. As you can see, as I paint throughout the rest of the painting, they are like very interesting. They have this very jelly-like consistency, and they have really awesome colors, like really vibrant colors, like lime green and hot pink, and all these various colors that you would never really get if you mix them. However, they are kind of hard to work with, and the final result is not really something that I'm super happy with. However, it's it's fun, it's interesting to play around with, and I do really like the vibrant colors that I have. And so yeah, I think it's an interesting purchase, but it's a very solid package. Like it's super heavy and it's not easy carrying it around actually. But they also come with these like little paintbrushes, so I used them mostly as well, and it has this like paint palette which I use to mix paints as well. As you can see here, when I am mixing the paints, and the reason I keep the lids on the paint pots is that I don't want them to dry out. That's the main reason. Otherwise, it would have been way easier to paint if I took all the lids off the paint pots, but I know that they're gonna dry, so that's why I keep them on. Even though, to be fair, even keeping the lids on like this, it still does dry out, so yeah, but I don't know. I'm considering taking them off, but I'm not sure. Just because it's so difficult to like peel them off and like, you know, work with them. It's kind of difficult to work with, but you can also see when I'm mixing on the paint palette, it's very difficult actually. I don't know if it's like waterproof or like what the consistency is that's making it not appear so well on the palette, but yeah, and I'm basically just trying to paint on top of the receipt and kind of integrate it. I actually thought that I would be painting with watercolor on top of the receipt so that I could see what's written underneath, but as I paint I realized that I'm going to be covering the receipt up. But to be fair, I think that's a good thing, because if I used water on that receipt, or if I used more of a water-based medium, the receipt probably would not have held up very well. So I think it's better that I used a bit of a thick paint on this. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say about this painting, except that it was a photo that I took when we were riding through the streets of Baku at nighttime. There was the moon. It was above the building, and I really liked the contrast between the white light and the yellow lights of the building. So yeah, and it was just a really nice composition. So I think it's really important to keep your eyes out for things that are for moments that you're not able to really capture in a photo because it doesn't look that good, but it looks really nice when you paint it. So you take a photo for reference and then you just paint it later on, and I really like those kinds of moments because there's just so many photos out there, right? And so when you're able to paint something that a photo can't really capture that well, it's special, and that's what I really love about art. So yeah, we will catch up in the next painting. Alright, it's me again, and now we are going on to the next painting, which I really like. It was actually one of I think the second to last painting, and by the way, I filmed all of these on different days actually, because obviously I would never be able to finish all of this in one night. And this painting is actually of, it was in the countryside, and it was on this palace ground. So like there was a king or whatever, and he had this palace, and we went to go see it. And this building that I'm painting is not the palace, it's actually just a citadel, I think, or it used to be a church or something, and it's now the Museum of Applied Arts, and it is it houses a lot of like historical artifacts like pottery and artworks and things like that. So we didn't actually go inside, but yeah, it was a really lovely view, and I just wanted to paint that. And the colours in this are a lot different to the previous paintings, which were mostly blue. This one had a lot more green, and also the warm tones of the building as well, which were really pretty. As you can see in this painting, I decided to saturate the colours a bit more than usual, so I really go a bit stronger with the blues, and this is just me like blocking out the clouds a bit, so I'm trying to take paint off actually, so I can block the clouds out. But the whole painting itself, like you'll see by the end, it becomes really saturated, and I really like that look actually. I really like saturated paintings anyway, like even my digital artwork is always quite saturated, because I just love vibrant colours. And yeah, I think I'm not sure actually how I feel about the paper, because I feel like the paper is not very you have to have a certain technique with it when you're painting with watercolors on this recycled paper, because I feel like it sucks paint in a lot. It sucks paint and water in a lot. Like, it's not, you can't really do wet on wet that well with this cutty paper like I'm doing now. It works a lot better on normal watercolor paper just because I think it doesn't absorb water as much. But this paper really drinks a lot of water, so it's quite difficult to do that wet on wet technique. And you can see, like, already it's very dry. Like, as I'm painting, you can very clearly tell. But yeah, there's not much more I have to say about this painting, so please enjoy the rest of it. Alright, this painting starts off with a bottle packaging. This is from a water bottle, and I thought it fit quite aptly because I was about to do some mounting paintings, and what I like about this is that it's sticky. Like the bottle packaging is obviously kind of sticky, so I could just stick it in directly. I just used some glue to make it stick at the back in the middle, but yeah, besides that, it was pretty good. These mountains were basically just two views that we saw on our way back from the countryside, and I think for this one I basically just went in with paints pretty much straight away, mainly because, you know, mountain scenes, there's not really much to draw. It's more about the colors and it's more about the contrasts and things like that. So yeah, as you can see, I just got straight into the painting, and this is me putting down a bit of a purple sky. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the paintings. There are two paintings here. And finally, we move on to the last sketch. This, as you can see, is the last page of the sketchbook. I was very excited to get to this point, and already, as you can see, I had done quite a bit of painting before that. The palettes are so messy, and I was so ready to finish at this point. And yeah, this is a citadel. Again, another citadel, which is in the countryside, and it was just this lovely composition. And I decided to go very simple with this composition. It was more of a Studio Ghibli type of field. This painting didn't take very long at all because there wasn't much detail. And yeah, I'm so glad that I have finished the sketchbook finally, and I'm more than excited to show you the sketchbook tour next week, to run through the sketches and talk you through all the different paintings, because it was honestly so exciting. And I'll also be sharing different videos of me kind of in that moment capturing the scene, so you have some context, which I think is the most exciting part about travel sketchbook, is when you're able to see like the thing, like what you're painting, and then you look at the painting and you kind of compare it. I think that's just the most exciting part. But yeah, that was the painting video. If any of you have gotten this far, like honestly, I will be so amazed and shocked. And if you have got this far, then please comment, I got this far, or something along those lines. Because to be honest, I really don't think anyone will get this far. But I hope that you have also come up with something really nice with your art session. Maybe it's not something you're happy with, maybe it is. It doesn't matter, as long as you've made something, then that is the biggest achievement. And yeah, with that, I will leave you to finish the rest of the video. And this is me trying to find a clean bottle of water. But yeah, I will see you next week for the sketchbook tour. Bye!